You may question this list because of the predictable, repetitive NBA playoffs we've had this decade, but these are 2019's teams with the best chance to snap that trend. It's these 5 teams' style of play which perfectly matches what the bright lights of the postseason has to offer. Here's the most likely NBA teams to shock the world in the 2019 playoffs. At number 5 is OKC, even though they've lost 4 in a row down the stretch. But with Paul George's two-way dominance, Westbrook's revamped play recently, and the rebounding and low post presence Steven Adams provides, OKC is built for the postseason. Overall, they have the 4th highest defensive rating in the NBA, improved from 10th in 2017-18. The reason OKC ranks down at number 5, though, is because their supporting cast is questionable offensively. Depth means less in the playoffs because your top producers get 90% of the minutes, but also Westbrook's field goal percentage in this year's playoffs can't be like the last 2. PG, who's the leader in real plus-minus in the NBA, also needs to be better these playoffs, but these guys have explosive talent, more than enough pressured playoff experience, and without Melo taking away the ball from either George or Westbrook, the chemistry should be a lot better as well. We move to the lesser stack conference where since February 4th, the Pistons are 15-5, ranking number 1 in the NBA in offensive rating since then. Finishing 7th place to face the likely to be 2nd-seeded Toronto Raptors would be the ideal first-round matchup for them. They're 3-0 against their coach's former team. But any team's front line is going to struggle stopping Drummond and Blake on the glass. Post play is critical in the playoffs when defensive rotations tighten. Griffin specifically has dominated the post. Blake's finally staying healthy, and his size combined with his sneaky elite shooting and ball handling ability that you'd never expect him to have opens up opposing defenses. And recently acquired sharpshooter Wayne Ellington along with Langston Galloway, who's shooting 57% from deep since the All-Star break, are great complementary shooters for the front court. Quick shout out to Caleb Belizio before the top 3, who says Trae Young has the attitude to be a superstar, but thinks his ceiling is a poor man's Chris Paul. He maintains his lead on the Community Speaks board. Thanks for all your competitive takes down below. Any comment, however, is appreciated. Ranked 3rd, also the number 3 ranked NBA team in defensive rating, led by Rudy Gobert's underrated MVP impact. The team that ESPN acts doesn't exist, the Utah Jazz. They're better than last year's team that made the 2nd round, not only because of Rudy's best season as a pro, but despite a slow start to the season, Donovan Mitchell has taken a step up in his scoring in 2018-19. He's looking for a breakout postseason. 3-point sniper, bringing his experience in the finals from Cleveland. Kyle Korver should help them win some games. Last but not least, Derek Favors has had the most efficient season of his career. The Jazz can play a space and pace small ball lineup with Crowder and Royce O'Neal, with either Favors and Gobert at the center, or the big, overwhelming to stop in the paint combination of Favors and Gobert. Utah's extremely versatile and talented, and they're not a team to be slept on. At number 2 is the Spurs, who've always been slept on, but the 7th ranked offense in the NBA behind Greg Popovich's system makes them tough to beat 4 times out of 7. I'll start with the new guy, DeMar, and even though Lowry ended up becoming the Raptors' go-to guy in the playoffs, DeRozan for the first time ever isn't expected to be the main option going into playoff games. Defense's game plans will be to shut down the post-up and mid-range scoring machine, LaMarcus Aldridge. This means less double teams for DeMar, less pressure overall, and his full arsenal offensively should be able to dominate. Speaking of dominating, the Spurs are 9-1 in March, recently getting an impressive win against Golden State. They're getting hot at exactly the right time. Honorable mentions to the Brooklyn Nets, who've been one of the more shocking stories this regular season, pulling off an insane comeback recently, erasing a 28-point deficit against the Kings entering the 4th quarter. There's a ton of young athleticism and energy on Brooklyn. They'll be underestimated. The Clippers' defense and star talent isn't strong enough to qualify for this list, but a great story this season nonetheless. Doc Rivers has kept the Clippers' winning culture without Blake and Chris. Lastly, the 2 second seeds in the Nuggets and the Raptors, who have high playoff expectations, if they pulled off the incredible this playoffs, I don't think the phrase shock the world is applicable. It's tough for me as a Raptors fan to choose a team I despise at number 1. Right now, it's the Bucks and my Raptors as the 2 Eastern Conference favorites. But for those teams, the good times and expected glory can be put to a screeching halt by the endless star power of the 2019 Sixers. I'm taking this a step further than the East, though. They have as good as a shot as any NBA team to take down the Warriors. 4 all-star caliber players who can score inside and out. If the 5 all-stars from the Bay get any bit complacent, Philly's core of incredibly tough-to-handle offensive talents will take advantage. Last year's playoffs, there were the wrong pieces around Simmons and Embiid, and even that duo and team got them to the conference semis. But now, somehow, keeping sharpshooter JJ Redick, you add 2 of the best wing scorers in the NBA in Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris. One of those 4 stars in Simmons, Embiid, Butler, and Harris is going to be on the floor at all times for the Sixers come the playoffs. But stopping all 4 at once is overwhelming, to say the least. If you're new and enjoyed For Hoops lists, stories, and predictions, hit subscribe. The shoutout question is, what's your prediction for this year's playoffs? Thanks a ton for watching. This was Dflow. See you next video.